What's up, everyone? Getting at you here a little bit past when I thought I was going to. Just getting out, heading back from Elite FTS, going home. This is usually why I try not to do these after training, because as much as I try to get an idea of when I'm going to leave, sometimes I have no clue when that's actually going to be. So, anyway, so we'll get into it here with the talk and try to only be on for a little bit so y'all can go back to enjoying your Sunday here. I'm sure a lot of people are out with family and everything, probably won't see this for a while. Just as a note too, I'm still saving a lot of these Instagram talks, and I'll probably end up making them into a little bit more condensed content and probably throwing them up on like a YouTube or having them more accessible. So if you've missed the past ones, you'll still be able to listen to them later or look at them later in some sort of repurposed fashion. But anyways, training today went decent. We were doing, most of the people there on the same type of schedule, so most people were doing bench that day, but training went well. It just sometimes when we get in there, we have an idea of what's going to happen, but a lot of times stuff comes up. You got to help someone out. Everyone there is training, for their own reasons. Some are post meet, some are getting ready for a meet, but everyone there is a training partner. So if someone needs help with something, if whatever's going on, that's something that you're going to take the time to help those guys out. And that's part of one of the things that I think people are missing now in the powerlifting world, or just in strength training in general now, is everyone's at the gym at the same time maybe, but there's not actual groups of training going on where you have training partners there to help you and help you move through the movements. It's just, oh hey, we're all here at the same time and maybe we talk or something. But so that's why those training sessions can take a while, and then you get into rants or talks or whatever it is, and that's why things can kind of bleed over. So anyways, what I had planned today, I haven't seen any questions yet, but if by all means, if you have a question as we're going through anything or just want to ask something completely off topic, go ahead and just drop them into the conversation. That's totally acceptable, and is mostly part of the point of doing this is to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions if you want. The topic of the day is just kind of something to, while we're on here, to at least have something that is pushing the conversation forward instead of me just staring at a screen waiting for a question. So by all means, if you have something, just drop it in and I'll do a detour to kind of answer it, and then we can jump back on topic once we get to that point. But yeah, anyways, the topic of the day, I've been really wanting to hit nutrition lately pretty hard. A lot of it being just because this is kind of that important time of the year where people are gonna have a lot of nutrition-based questions, whether it's because they're, going into some of these holiday breaks and, going home for Christmas or seeing family, and, they want to know information about maybe how to handle that a little better this year. Or then on the flip side of that, once they get done with the holidays and get into the new year, some people, or a lot of people, end up having a lot of, hey, I want to change, make a change, stuff like that. So I've really positioned these nutrition talks to kind of be like, whether you're wanting to make a change currently and you want some information, or if it's just kind of there and maybe it's in the back of your head as you're going through the holidays, and then you flip over to to January 1 and decide like, hey, I want to start implementing some of this information. There's really where the gearing of this whole talk is going. So we've talked about general nutrition, basic nutrition. I believe it was tips last week for how you can implement some good tips to help you stay on track and be successful. So then now we'll talk getting into cheat meals. I think it'll be a really good topic as everyone's going out and getting prepared for the holidays, getting prepared for those Christmas meals, stuff like that. Start talking about cheat meals and maybe some ways you can utilize these concepts to where it's totally cool if you're going to be going on a Christmas, and we're supposed to be celebrating. We're supposed to be enjoying the end of the year and the break, and the family time and not necessarily be so uptight about shit. So at least here in this situation, how to use this information, how to use this these concepts to maybe make it more usable for those types of meals. What can you do to at least make sure if you're going to go all out and just hammer some cookies, well, at least you have maybe some concepts you can utilize to make it less bad on you. So anyways, with cheat meals, the main reason for cheat meals are, at least that I have broken down, are kind of two concepts on cheat meals. So cheat meals are basically going to be part of a good nutrition plan, or if you want to call it a diet, that's fine. But as far as when you look at it from a macro perspective, as a macro view of what a good diet or a good nutrition plan is going to look like, the cheat meal is going to be there for whether you're trying to, well, mostly you're end up going to probably be trying to lose weight when you talk about this context, but they can definitely be used when you're trying to increase size as well. The cheat meal is there for one of two reasons. It's there from a compliance perspective to, basically give you a light at the end of the tunnel to allow your body or your mind to have something to look forward to, or like, if you are one of those people that are in a caloric deficit, you're someone that is trying to lose weight or something, that at least you can look and go, you know what, if I can just get till Saturday, I can at least wait until Saturday, and then I can go out and have one meal where all the things I've told myself, no, I'm going to stick with the compliance, that 90% rule we talked about last week. At least if I can get to that point, then I can satisfy all those needs that I had earlier in the week that, that I said no for the sake of staying compliant. So it gives you like a light at the end of the tunnel where there's an end to the week where then you can at least let go a little bit but still stay on track, and that it's a planned thing, it's a planned meal. So it's also giving those people with like OCD a little bit of a like structured setup to answer that question, like, well, do I always have to do this? Or do I have to, or is there times where I can actually let loose a little bit? Can I have a few drinks? Can I, eat some shitty food? Like, yes, definitely. So that's kind of what that's there for. And then again, it's great to put it at the end of the week. Yes, I am vlogging and driving, absolutely. So it's one of those deals where you can. Oh, dude, Clint. On that note, I totally pulled to the side of the road because I had to jump out and grab something that was on my Jeep, and the shoulder was super soft, and so I was just spinning mud as I was doing it. So I was totally got a hankering to just absolutely just jump completely off topic for a bit and do some of the stuff we usually do when we're back together in Iowa, driving around at night. In terms of mudding, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Anyways. But yeah, so like the other perspective on that is the reason why it's at the end of the day your cheat meal is, or the end of the day and then at the end of the week, it's like almost rewarding good work. Like, hey, I put in the work during the middle of the week or the start of the week. I've been good. You know what? You should get rewarded for that. That's definitely part of it too. So that's the first reason why, from a compliance perspective, long term, if you can always just, hey, if I can in a baby step standpoint, just get to the next day, just get to the next part of the week, and then right at the end of the week, hey, at least if I can get to that point, I've got some way to let loose and then prepare for that next week, right? So it gives that emotional release. That's definitely a good thing. But in all honesty, the other point is a cheat meal is actually good from a metabolic perspective, because it's like throwing gas on the fire, right? So if your metabolism, think of it like during the week or during this whole process, especially when you're in a caloric deficit, that you are you're decreasing the amount of calories, which is, if you look at it as fuel, it's like that fire is kind of smoldering, right? There's still some heat going, it's still producing heat, it's still using energy, but it's maybe smoldering. Well, that cheat meal is like throwing a big thing of gas on the fire, right? So you're kicking up the metabolism because of that meal. Your body gets that huge excess amount of energy at that one time. It goes, oh shit, okay, I guess we're back into having a little bit of a micro surplus. So now we're going to kick back the energy systems to to start burning that off again. So from that perspective, it's really good too, getting into that next week, because your body has something to work against as far as expenditure on calories. So having that cheat meal once a week is actually, some people will argue you should almost never pull that out because of that perspective, especially in a situation where you're actually trying to lose weight or lean up. But and the reason why, to get away from the question that typically comes up with a cheat meal is like, oh, am I ruining my hard work during the week? Well, the cool thing about a cheat meal is, if you're programming correctly, that cheat meal should be such a minute part of the week. It's one meal out of, again, we talked about the 35 to 42 meals you're eating in a week, where you physically can't, well, unless you're really, really good at this. There are some people that have been able to slam an insane amount of calories in one meal, but there's just not enough time there for you to take in enough calories to actually put yourself back into a surplus if things are dialed in from a calorie perspective in your training or in your nutrition. So even though you're like, oh man, but I just ate a lot of calories, yes, you're going to gain some water. So the next morning you will be definitely holding some more water, which will mean you're going to be heavier. But from a calorie perspective, from a fat perspective, there's not enough there to ruin what you just did in that week. And again, like we talked about from a metabolic perspective, like the gas in the fire, you're actually going to increase that ability for your body to burn more calories throughout that week. So those are the two big reasons why you have those put in there. So now you kind of get an idea of why those would be in there. You start talking about there are actually, I guess, technically two different types of cheat meals you can look at. The first one just being a completely unrestricted, go do whatever you want. Like if you've all week been wanting pizza, go smash some pizza. And that's totally a doable thing. Without being overly technical, yes, there are situations where you may be like, okay, don't smash the entire pizza, don't completely gorge yourself, but because again, it's more about sustainability. So whatever ends up working for you, I would just say for pure, so we don't have to go down a rabbit hole on this versus that, because it does all kind of depend. But for that sake, that would be a situation of like a completely unrestricted cheat meal. You go out, whatever it is in that meal you want, you go to a restaurant, you order whatever it is you want on the menu. That's kind of what we're talking about. Yes, The Rock does have some badass cheat meals, which actually, what we're going to go into now with the cleaner cheat meals, some of them you see, like when he has like the big ass stack of pancakes, that's actually, if you kind of look at what that would look like, that's probably actually more for the sake of actually gaining size, and it's like a timed clean cheat meal where the whole purpose is still to get the metabolic effect. You're still getting that huge surplus of calories in, but they're a little bit more dialed in on the perspective of trying to limit or hold the reins back on maybe like a fat. Usually it is a fat. So a cheat meal is typically, most likely, most people are going to end up eating a lot of carbs and a lot of fat. And with maybe a more clean cheat meal, you're trying to restrict it to where the individual's not getting too much fat in. From that standpoint, then again, for like trying to refill muscle glycogen and stuff like that, that's where maybe that's a little more beneficial in like a gaining perspective. So again, in that standpoint, like a clean cheat meal, that's what you're looking at then. In those situations where maybe you're having a lot of pastas, maybe some rice, like sushi, something like that, where it's more geared on how many, just blasting the carbs, but then holding back on the fat. So your pizza will be out, something like an ice cream or a whole lot of chocolate type sweets. Those are going to have higher fat. So in a cleaner mindset, that would be where it'd be held back. Again, for that purpose, if you're getting that detailed, you're probably looking at something that's a little bit more dialed in from a perspective where you have a coach or you're being very detailed on a program. So for basic nutrition, from what we've been talking about, it's going to be more of a clean cheat meal is going to be less applicable because of that. that's really start to dial things in. You probably have to be leaner anyways at that point to get really benefit from something like a clean cheat meal. So there are two different types that you can hold the reins back a little bit for those purposes of not overdoing it, while at the same time trying to blast a bunch of food for that specific purpose of maybe like you're trying to refill glycogen stores. I'm actually doing some of those currently because I'm reversing out of a bigger cut to where now I do have a couple extra cheat meals in the week that are very much like, okay, I'm going to go and have spaghetti, where it's a lot of pastas, a lot of like a tomato base, obviously like the tomato base type sauce, where again tomatoes and there's not a whole lot of fat in that, and then that's something I'm slamming that, but from a more of a state of I'm trying to get more and more glycogen back into my muscles. So not so much to where it's like for the purpose of re-stimulating metabolism again at the end of the week after being in a deficit, like like more of the dirty or just unrestricted cheat meal typically is that we're talking about. So anyway, sorry, we're getting on a tangent on that a little bit here, but basically next thing is being, okay, so we talked about cheat meals. So what are tips to utilize cheat meals? How do you actually utilize them? So everything's about consistency. When you are utilizing the cheat meal, it definitely needs to be consistent. Now again, it can kind of depend like to a little bit, but you typically want to have it on the same day every week. And again, for the long-term view, to be able to look at each week and seeing how you're responding, it's good to have things all on the same, on the same program or the same cycle. So you're doing it consistently across the board every single day, or every day during the week. So with that, like the best example I can give you and what I would recommend if you're going to do cheat meals are basically have the cheat meal be on very very much would be beneficial if it's on a heavy training day, right? Also it'd be the day of the morning that you're going to be weighing in if you are actually tracking weight every week. So weight is the same thing, right? You should be weighing, if you're going to weigh the same time on the same day every single week. So preferably in the morning on, let's say, a Saturday. So Friday night comes by, Saturday morning I wake up, the very first thing I do is I weigh myself. That's the routine every week. So then every week it's the same exact time all the way through. So then from that perspective, you would, put the cheat meal at the end of that day, right? So then, same day I weigh myself, that I go in, have a heavy training day, come back that night, and then I've got my cheat meal coming off of that. And so, obviously the reason for that is, like we said, we are replenishing, a lot of calories that haven't been there in the nutrition program during the week. And then on top of that, we're going into a training, session where it's a heavily taxing training session. There's a lot of rebuilding going on. So the cheat meal is well placed in that scenario to be at the end of the day, on that same day every week where you're gonna have that super heavy, squat day, let's say. It's a great time to put that in there because not only are you replenishing from that training session you had before, but as we'll talk about here in a little bit, you're putting yourself in the best position. Your body's already in the best position at that point from a metabolic standpoint, from a physiologic standpoint, that when you put in those dirty calories, your body's going to handle them much better, or they're going to handle them optimally at that point. So utilizing it after your training on the last meal of that day is another great reason to do it, because at that point, because basically what you're doing is at that point you've eaten throughout the entire day, right? It's just a regular day up until that point. So that's also going to limit the amount of food you're going to eat during that cheat meal, because you've been eating consistently throughout the day. Now, if you starve yourself all fucking day, then yeah, guess what? You're gonna probably have a shit ton more that you're gonna eat if you at the end of the day when you have that cheat meal in, or if you have that cheat meal in the middle part of the day and then don't need anything at the start of the day. So that's reason number one to have it at the end of the day. So it is, again, putting little restrictions on how much you're probably gonna take in during that cheat meal that you just don't know about or aren't realizing. But again, the next perspective on that, why you have it at the end of the day, is especially after we just train. So this is a concept that we start talking about at the cellular level, how your body actually utilizes the energy that we get, from food when we get into the bloodstream. So at the end of the day, and especially after training, essentially the transporters of that energy are either gonna, there's transporters on the fat cells and there's transporters on those muscle cells. So at the end of the day, especially after training, you are a high likelihood that the energy, the calories that are available in the bloodstream at that point in time in the day, because of those two factors, are very likely going to go into your muscle cells and not into your fat cells. So if you really want to get into it, then the T-GLUT receptors, the actual transporters of the energy from the blood into the actual cell itself, whether it's a fat cell or a regular cell, a muscle cell, those are what I'm talking about. So at that point, your fat cells have had reduced sensitivity to insulin, which is going to be that kind of key that unlocks those transporters to transport that in. That's going to be optimal. So again, you're putting yourself in a good position where that cheat meal is going to help you versus hurt you. So that's kind of why we're putting it there at the end of the day after your training. Point with that, again, because now some people are going to go out and have like a burger, right? But the most people are going to do something like, I'm going to have nachos, or I'm going to have like pizza or something like that. The biggest point to make is, going back again to what we just did, right? We just had a huge training session coming into this day. So you still need to, even though it's a cheat meal, you still need to make sure that we're providing that protein environment for the body to keep building muscle. So again, most cheat meals are gonna be done just by default on the perspective of carbs. So even, you go into a cheat meal, most likely your cheat meal is not going to be a gigantic steak. It's going to be, like I said, pizza, nachos, whatever. And yes, they do have usually going to have some meat in it, but unless you're going out and eating a gigantic burger, like a half pound or a pound burger or something as your cheat meal with fries and all that, sometimes you're going to end up neglecting your protein intake. So it's important to make sure that either you're getting that protein in with that cheat meal that you're doing, or again, if that's not something you're interested in, that's not what you want to eat for your cheat meal, then get in some sort of, that'd be an opportunity to, hey, just down a shake quick before you go enter that cheat meal. Because again, at the end of the day, if you don't have protein available, it's going to be hard for your body to continually put on muscle. And a lot of you, when you're going into, most people are looking to change their nutrition in the sense of they're probably trying to lose a little weight and they're probably trying to gain some muscle or stay lean. So in that standpoint, you always have to make sure protein's involved. But anyways, those are just a few tips there on, how to utilize the cheat meal. So again, it's once a week. It's going to be at the end of the day, preferably on a heavy training day, also preferably on the same day you weigh in, because it's going to mess with you later in the week. The good example is that if you had your cheat meal 3 days before you weighed in, you're always going to be like, well, fuck, I'm super heavy. Well, yeah, because you're still holding water from that cheat meal. So those are kind of some of those tips. Merry Christmas, Clint. I will tell Margaret and Bruce and everyone at Hybrid Performance, and I will definitely call Mama Zim as well. She will be upset at me if I do not call her. So that's how you kind of use them. And the application of it. So then since we detail what they are, we have to detail what it is not. And a cheat meal is not an excuse to eat like shit. That's the biggest thing. If you are utilizing a cheat meal, by definition, you must have something to cheat for, right? So if a cheat meal is straying away from what your normal is, then you normally have to be eating correctly or have some sort of nutrition plan in which you're eating clean to then be able to call something a cheat. Otherwise, you're just consistently eating like shit. So some people will, use that as, again, like I said, an excuse where they're doing whatever they want anyways during the week, and then, they go at the end of the week, oh, I just, trained hard. Like, oh, I'm just going to have a cheat meal this weekend. It's like, well, didn't you just, eat a burger the other night, or didn't you just have pizza, 2 nights before or whatever? So if you're going to use a cheat meal, actually understand that then requires you to have the flip side of that to be able to call it a cheat meal. So having 5 cheat meals a week is not really using a cheat meal. It's just eating like shit. That's pretty self-explanatory. So if you're doing that, I don't know, man. That's just bullshit. It's a pet peeve. You have to have. You should always reward hard work, not get your reward before you do any work. Period. So, anyways, that's a little bit of a note on some of the what is it not. So for me currently, like I said, that's kind of the line is right now. I actually have 2 or 3 cheat meals a week because I am reversing out of the cut. And in that standpoint, I would definitely say, there's certain levels to where people can use nutrition. At the most basic level, if you're just trying to make, a couple changes in your life, and just trying to, maybe turn around and just eat a little cleaner, lose a little bit of weight, nothing horribly serious. Then, the cheat meal is going to be maybe not as big of a deal for you, or just maybe a concept to say, get the idea around, like, hey, if you are good, it's okay if you have if you're stray a little bit once in a while, or try to stray within these lines or guidelines of a cheat meal. Then if you start going like, I do want to make a change, but I still want to do my own, I don't want to hire a coach or anything like that. Just give me the real basics, and I'll eat in a good way, and I'll monitor these things like you say. But I want to be a DIY kind of situation. Then the cheat meal becomes, again, like, then definitely put it in once a week, because in the long run, it's going to help you a lot with making good decisions on your progress. Then you start getting into the waters of, if you do start to get super dialed in, you start counting macros, you start really getting detailed about it. That can be something where you're still running your own, nutrition. I've done that for, so I've been kind of on this, I guess, kick nutrition, paying attention. I've been serious about the things I eat for probably going on 8 or 9 years now. And I would say up until, from like 2010 or 2011, all the way up until 2015, all that time was spent on my own, figuring things out, running different programs, learning about different programs, learning about my body, and being 100% on my own. So by all means, like, you have the ability to utilize cheat meals and utilize these concepts smartly on your own without really too much external help when it comes to like a coach. I would definitely, at that point, if you want to be serious about this stuff, to go out and start reading more material and being more educated. Reach out, like, ask a question, very specific questions about, like, hey, what are some resources? So you can start to gain some of that knowledge, and it can be very, very beneficial. Like, I've had more success now since having a coach, but I think the foundations and the understandings of nutrition and how to effectively utilize nutrition and dieting and all that stuff, all of that came from the 5 years or more of me doing it on my own and making mistakes and learning from them and feeling out my body. To where now it's really nice to have a coach that just tells me what to do, because we can be more detailed and I can have a second opinion on what we're doing, and I can kind of give them the reins. But by all means, the things we talked about before, this entire time, and including this talk with the cheat meal, are definitely something you can all do on your own. I say all this because now, getting on to what I'm doing, where I've had a coach since 2015. There are specific goals we want to do. We've been very detailed on all those goals. I do count out all my shit. Now that gives you the opportunity, when you can get as lean as I've been able to get, and have someone that knows their shit helping you, now you can actually get really, interesting, where you do things like I'm doing, where you're putting in 2 to 3 cheat meals a week, where you're doing a lot of manipulation with carbs on certain days and not on other days, and all the things we can get into and run down the rabbit hole of nutrition with. So right now that's kind of what's going on, and this is honestly kind of uncharted waters with me, but it's cool and it's fun because I already understand to a little bit of what we're doing. It's usually I have to bounce those questions off of my coach to then hear him go like, yep, this is what it's for. Oh yeah, we're gonna do it this time because of this. So the experience is definitely fun, but right now, like for me, like I said, like last week and the week before, I had 3 high carb days, which on the end of the day consisted of a cheat meal. 2 of those were clean, where again it's more just about like we're going to throw a bunch of just non-restricted amounts of calories in, but they are going to have restrictions where again we're limiting fat. We're really only sticking to like carbs as being really the factor that we're actually trying to get a lot of in those cheat meals. 2 of those a week. Again, for those 2 I chose actually kind of just pasta. I didn't want to go out and do anything special for us during the week, so I just honestly made a shit ton of spaghetti. And then like the 1 cheat meal on the end was like a dirtier cheat meal, so it was like last night we had pizza, whatever. So that's kind of how I'm using them currently. And those are some of those concepts and how they're being used. So for me, going into the holiday season, going into like Christmas coming up, I think we're gonna have a meal on Monday night and Tuesday night, which are probably gonna be like, I have 1 or 2 options. I could probably actually eat pretty cleanly during those meals, or I could say, fuck it, and I'm gonna eat whatever I want kind of thing and be unrestricted because it's the holidays, right? And that's totally okay either way. So again, looking into the concepts we've gone over, well, here's how you would make it so that cheat meal actually would make sense. It wouldn't throw you off that much and you'd be good to go. So I would go in and I would train those days. I would make them heavy training days. I would beat my body up a little bit as far as a training perspective to make sure that I'm good to go, ready to go. At the end of the day, hey, perfect, 5 o'clock, we're gonna eat it. We're gonna eat a huge meal. Awesome. I've kind of primed myself to have that day ready. It then becomes a question of maybe how much I want to go off, or just be able to have the freedom to know like, hey, I've done the work ahead of time again, so then I can have the reward at the end. So maybe I won't just load up on a bunch of Christmas cookies. Maybe I just want to be able to eat whatever meat and as much potatoes or whatever as I want. So that's how again, it does require you to have a plan in place and already actually be training and weightlifting to have like an actual cheat meal. But if you do have that, then just that would be my advice to you. If you're someone that wants to enjoy your holidays but also doesn't want to fuck yourself up too much from a calorie perspective, just do that, and you'll come out the other end. It's just a week or 2 of this. You'll come out the other end, jump right back on track, no big deal, we're good to go. So that would be what I would say as far as what we've learned today, how you can then apply that to your holidays and be able to enjoy whatever you want to do, and not really have to think too much about your nutrition. You can make nutrition as complicated or as easy as you want, and still get great results either way. So it just depends on what your goals are and what you really want to accomplish. But that's about all I got for you guys. I know we're kind of a little bit more sporadic on this talk than I usually like to be, but let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I think the video's available for like 24 hours. I'm gonna hopefully try here in the next couple weeks or so to kind of get a collaboration of all these videos up so you guys can go through them again, especially when we actually can get done with the nutrition talks all together. I'd like to put those all together as an option for you guys to look at and review, and so you kind of have a running line of nutrition information. So not quite sure what the next one will be about. There's obviously a lot of different topics you can go on with nutrition, so by all means though, if you have one in particular, a specific topic you would like to learn about that I could help out with, definitely send me a DM or email me at drdetweiler@hybrid-performance.net with that question, because I'd be more than happy to make an entire talk or part of a talk about, something specific that you have that you want to have answered. If it's not something you want to have answered on something live like this, contact me in the same exact way, and I'd be more than happy to work with you more in a one-on-one on answering any of your questions. I've done that already with a few people since I've started these talks, and that's the whole goal. Like, I don't really give a shit about me personally, on the sense of, it doesn't get me off to get on Instagram and talk about myself and hope that you guys listen and pay attention and think the world of me. I don't give a shit about that. It's more about, I do feel like there are people out there that would like to have more information that aren't necessarily going to ask, but maybe would be willing to listen if it was put in front of them, or they may learn a few things they didn't know, and then that would definitely open up a window of being able to allow them to feel comfortable and make a change in their nutrition or in their life. And that's, at the end of the day, my goal is, if I can be an outlet to someone to allow them, to help them to feel more comfortable making those changes, then I would definitely love to be able to be that kind of an influence on someone. So I know there's a lot, and this is going to get onto a little bit of a rant before I let you guys go. And we shouldn't go on this rant because it's Christmas. Y'all should be having fun and celebrating. So maybe I'll save that for another time. But basically, there are some people out there whose intentions are for, in my type of professional work, to be like the center of attention and receive a lot of praise and have people tell them how awesome they are and how smart they are. And it just, I don't understand that. To me, it's really off-putting. So the purpose of this is to be an education resource for you guys. And again, I just feel like this is a good outlet to be able to give that information, and that has been reinforced by the couple people that I have been able to help and reach out to from this outlet. So if I feel like it is not helping people, I will stop it. It has nothing to do with me. But anyways, everyone enjoy their holiday, their Christmas. Everyone enjoy Christmas and the New Year's. And if that's definitely something where, you're in a position where you are looking to make a change in your nutrition, you are looking to improve your life from a nutritional standpoint, from a health standpoint, please do not hesitate to reach out and let me know if there's anything I can do to help you, because that really is, I understand that it's something that's not easy to do because there's a lot of bad information out there. There's a lot of there's a lot of misconstrued information, and there's a lot of unknowns, and people try to make it more complicated than it has to be. It really comes down to that. If you want to make it complicated, if you want to make it something that you have to spend a lot of effort and time on, and it stresses you out, you can do that. Or if it's just more something, if you need basic tips to help you make better decisions and see results from that, you can do that too. That's why, as long as I've been spending in this realm, especially with nutrition, the more it really is like, it's just a journey. Make a decision on where you want to go, and find the people and find the information that's going to help you get there. So again, I know that can be sometimes intimidating to know what to do and when to do it, and there's a lot of unsureness, I guess, about it, but feel free to contact me. Like I said, I'd be more than happy to help out. So anyways, I'm gonna get off. Everyone have a good Christmas, Merry Christmas, and we'll catch you guys next week.